Hello friends, welcome to Cold Coffee. This is Asfa. Today we are going to discuss about the Minimum Wages Act 1948. First, let me explain you why this minimum wages came. In the initial stage, only Payment of Wages Act only there. Payment of Wages Act, the Act year was 1936. Minimum Wages Act, the Act year was 1948. Before the Payment of Wages Act, what happened in the industry is actually in the industry people didn't pay the wages properly to the persons, and they may hold or sometimes they may deny the wages to the employees. So these things have been occurred. To avoid this, Payment of Wages Act have been came. That act, employees should have to pay the wages properly, and within this day they have to pay the wages. Like that, few points have been highlighted. After that, one other issue have been raised. Wages was paying to the employees as well as laborers and workers, but wages is not in the proper ratio. For an example, if my wages per day is 300 rupees, means what employer done is they have been reduced my wages and they paid only 100 rupees. They said like a Payment of Wages Act, government said only to pay the wage. They didn't mention any criteria for minimum wages, so they paid only the wages in a very minimum amount. To avoid this, government framed one other law, that is Minimum Wages Act. In this Minimum Wages Act, government framed a particular wage, that is according to the zone level, what would be the cost of living, what's the actual expenses, all these things have been calculated, and the minimum criteria have been set for each and every zone, and government fixed it and released it with the help of minimum wages. And government announced as wages should have to pay, and wages minimum this much amount should have to pay for the laborers, workers, like that. More than this amount you can pay, it's up to you, but lowering this minimum wages should not be there. Like that, a strict law was happened in minimum wages. Now let's have a look on some few important points in minimum wages. The main objective of the act to provide for fixing minimum rates of wages in certain employments. Minimum rate of wages such as the basic rate of wages, etc., a variable dearness allowance, and value of other concessions, etc. Fixation of minimum rate of wages. The appropriate government to fix the minimum rate of wages. The employees employed under Part 1 or Part 2 of the schedule to make review at such interval not exceeding 5 years the minimum rate, or so fixed and revise the minimum rates. Government can also fix minimum wages for time work, piece work, or piece rate. Piece work for the purpose of securing to such employees on a time work basis, overtime work done by employees for piece work or time rate workers. Procedure for fixing and revising minimum rate of wages. Appointment committee is there, issue of notification, etc. Composition of the committee. Representatives of employer and employees in scheduled employment in equal number, and independent person not exceeding 1/3 of its total number. One such person to be appointed by the chairman. Payment of minimum rate of wages. Employer to pay to every employee engaged in scheduled employment at a rate not less than minimum rate of wages as fixed by notification, by not making decision other than the prescribed. Fixing hours for normal working shall constitute a normal working day inclusive of one or more specified interval, to provide for a day of rest in every period of 7 days with remuneration, to provide for payment for work on a day of rest at a rate not less than the overtime rate. Overtime to be fixed by the hour, by the day, or such a longer wage period works on any day in excess of the number of hours consisting a normal working day. Payment for every hour or a part of an hour so worked in excess at the overtime rate, double at the ordinary rate, 1.5 times for agricultural labor. Wages of workers who work for less than the normal working days, save as otherwise hereinafter provided, be entitled to receive wage in respect of work done by him on that day, as if he had worked for a full normal working day. Wages for two classes of work. Where an employee does two or more classes of work, to each of which a different minimum rate of wage is applicable, wages at not less than the minimum rate in respect of each such class. Maintenance of register and records. Form 1 register of fines, Form 3 annual returns, Form 4 register of overtime, Form 10 register of wages, Form 11 wage slip, and Form 5 muster roll. Minimum time rate wages for piecework not less than minimum rate wages as fixed. Claim by employees to be filled before authority consisted under the act within 6 months. If an employee violates this law, means there will be some punishments and penalties are there. You can have a look on that. If you find this information helpful for you, means just give a like and share it with your friends. Do subscribe. If you need any other kind of information, just kindly drop in the comments. Thank you, friends.